Okay. So I'm assuming we've all heard of Devi Mahatmyam. There's been in some reference we would have heard Devi Mahatmyam. We would have heard of it being chanted, or we would have heard of something known as Devi Mahatmyam. Okay.
தேவி மகாத்மியம்ன்ற வார்த்தை தான் தெரியும். சரி.
Right, right. So there is a work, Durga Saptashati அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. Saptashati, yeah, which is 700 shlokas. Like how Bhagavad Gita, maybe Bhagavad Gita can be called as Krishna Shava Saptashati. Like Bhagavad Gita 700 verses, Durga Saptashati or Devi Mahatmyam has got 700 verses. Okay. Yeah, audio clear இருக்குல்ல? I know Srividya, you've put on some new hearing aids and all that, so it's probably able to hear better. So, this Durga Saptashati talks about the advents of Durga or Parashakti. And this is one of the important works in Devi worship, in terms of there's almost so which is one is the Devi Bhagavatam that we mentioned, right? Devi Bhagavatam is also the stories of Devi. Devi Mahatmyam is in the chant form, and this is in a way these are the I wouldn't say the exploits of Durga Ma, but these are the ways in how Durga Ma destroys or clears off all evils that arise in the world. And these appear in several forms. Okay, these evils or these vices. See, all of these books, we all know, all the Puranas, Bhagavatam, and everything is essentially, or even the whole Mahabharata is also essentially an expression of the inner struggle, the inner fight, the inner struggle, the inner conflicts that are there. It is expressed in story form, in the form of some kind of a negative aspect, and then a god or a deity comes as a positive force and then clears it off. So Devi Mahatmyam is also similar. It is just that the verses there are so powerful that the chant of Devi Mahatmyam or Durga Saptashati is known to be of a very high it's very potent in terms of being able to cleanse the environment and also invigorate energy within us, give us that power to be able to face any kinds of adversities that come either from the outside or come from the inside. Adversities or adversaries that come from outside or come from inside. So this allows that energy to rise within us. Now, what beautifully it is done, Devi Mahatmyam, they've done the work is, it's part of the Markandeya Purana. And so the Devi Mahatmyam, the way it is structured is, there are different kinds of asuras who come, and then there is this Devi that is invoked by the Devatas because they are not able to subdue those asuras, because these asuras are not just normal asuras. These are all asuras who have gained some kind of prominence through their sadhana. Okay, through their sadhana they have attained to some kind of prominence and they are able to rule over some elements of nature. Even they go and threaten the Indraloka. When you threaten Indraloka, he is Deva, he is called Devendra. Why is he called Devendra, or why is he called the Lord of all Devatas? Because he governs all the other elements, Vayu, Agni, Varuna, Soma, and so on, so forth. So several other Devatas, he is the one who's governing. So when you're going and threatening Indra, means you are almost in control of all the elements. So these are asuras who take control of the elements, and they're able to manifest and do things whatever they able to, and they're able to do that to gain power over the people of the land, people of the earth. Essentially, they gain control over all life forms. So when that happens, then the devatas or the celestial forces come together, because what is happening is these asuras are creating imbalance in this srishti. See, I don't want to call world or earth or universe, those are in this creation, right? Because this creation can range through the whole 14 lokas, right? We've spoken about this, the several lokas, etc. We've spoken about this. So the point is that they can scale through all of this, and these asuras are ones who are able to actually move through these lokas easily and also create imbalance in creation itself. And when that happens, then these devatas or these celestial beings are the ones who are meant to govern these lokas. These are all different governing bodies. Agni is the governing principle of the Agni Tattva. Agni Devata is the governing principle of or the governor of the Agni Tattva. So, Adamari Varuna is the governor of the Jala Tattva. So, like that, there are devatas identified to say that there are these governing principles of that particular element. Now, what is happening is when there is imbalance that is caused, the whole creation goes a little out of balance, and there is a possibility of things completely either going into annihilation on some side, on some front, or it may dissolve on some other front, right? So it will definitely go out of place. So these celestial beings, they come together and they go and seek refuge. And they seek refuge with whom? They go to Shiva, they go to Vishnu, they go to several other higher beings that are higher than them. They go to Brahma, and then they say that we ourselves are powered by Shakti. We ourselves are powered by something much more superior than us, and that is Parashakti. And we have to invoke Parashakti. Okay, and then they create a whole yajna, and they make many offerings into that yajna. And what are the offerings they make? They make offerings of their astra, shastra, their belongings, their possessions, their property, all of that they put into that yajna. And also many of them cut their body parts and also put it into the yajna. Right? Some devatas chop off their hands, put it into the yajna, some the legs, and so on and so forth. And from that yajna, Chidagni Kunda Sambhuta Devakarya Samudyata. You remember the verse from Lalita Sahasranama. Chitagni Kunda Sambhuta. She rises from this Chit Agni. We look at what is Chit Agni, but Agni. So now that Maha Yajna that is created, she rises from that Yajna. Sambhuta Devakarya Samudyata. To fulfill the desires of the Devas. To fulfill the karya of the devas, the reason for which the devatas have invoked her, to fulfill that, she rises up. Parashakti rises up. Now, the rising up is for a particular purpose. So she is risen. Once she is risen, then what happens is this, my guru always says this. He says, whenever you invoke positive forces or you invoke Daivi forces through your chant, through your mantra, through your sadhana, through your dhyana, whatever, equally disturbing forces will also rise in nature. That is why a lot of times those who go into deeper sadhana, they will find that it becomes more and more challenging as they go deeper and deeper. See, these are stories, right? These Puranas are stories, but these, if you look at it, these are actually an experience of a sadhaka, what one goes through. So the more deeper that you go in your sadhana, the more difficult forces that will rise up, because what is happening is you in a way are creating an imbalance also, because you're invoking too much of positivity. So when Devi got invoked here with so much of positive, or all these devatas coming together to create that, here you have then asuras, which are like strong asuras that are getting generated, or strong asuras that are getting they are getting they are becoming more potent. They're becoming more potent in a way that only this Devi, this Parashakti who's risen up, only she can come and destroy. So you'll see these names: Shumbha, Nishumba, Chanda, Munda, Rakta Bija, and then one of them is Mahishasura. So all of these asuras rise, or they are there. These are the forces, negative forces, and the negative forces are starting an imbalance, and that imbalance is causing the devatas to go and create or invoke the positive energy of Devi. And then there is this war between these two. And then this Devi, when she is risen, it's not she doesn't just come up. She comes up and then she creates an army of her own. Shakti Sena Samanvita, another term in Lalita Sahasranama. Bhandasura Samayukta Shakti Sena Samanvita. So Shakti Sena, the whole Sena of Shakti is also released from her. And from her comes Ambika, Chandika, Kali, um, um, who else? Yeah. So several, in fact, even Varahi and Rajashamla or Mantrini, they are also coming from her. So all of these forces come from her. For what? To fight against these forces that are creating this imbalance. So this is the stage in which this whole Devi Mahatmyam operates. Right? This is the scene. Now, if you look at books of Devi Mahatmyam, or you look at the books of Durga and all of that, you will see this standard portrait of Durga killing Mahisha, and um, and there's so much of war, right? There's bloodshed all over the place, right? Because Devi Rakta Bija, to kill Rakta Bija, Devi takes the form of Kali. Ambika takes the form of Kali. If you know the form of Kali, her tongue is like come out, and she's holding a bowl, and that bowl actually is to catch the blood of Rakta Bija, because Rakta Bija was an asura whose one drop that falls onto the ground creates another Rakta Bija. Rakta Bija, his Rakta works as a Bija, as a seed for a new Rakta Bija. So you practically can't kill this guy. Every time you chop him off, there's blood that falls onto the ground. For every drop of blood, there is a Rakta Bija that comes out. So if you chop off his hand, then the spray of blood comes out, and then maybe hundreds of Rakta Bijas are coming out. Now that is why Ambika then sends forth Kali, who comes out and holds the bowl and collects the blood and also sucks the blood in, so that no blood falls onto the earth. These are all the way the story is communicated. Now there are different, if you look at each one, so we're not going to the study of Devi Mahatmyam, because there's a whole spiritual significance of Devi Mahatmyam, the Chandi path, and how you look at each one of this from an esoteric or from a spiritual significance. That is a separate piece of work. But just to give a flavor of all of these things, is that these are several asuras that get risen from, or these asuras that are there in the in that context, and Devi herself is vanquishing each one of them directly as Parashakti herself, or through the forces that she's sending out. Okay. And Mahishasura Mardini Stotram, the Aigiri Nandini Stotram, has become quite popular. So one version is that Adi Shankara composed this, and Tenali Rama, Tenali Rama of Vijayanagara Empire, he popularized it. This is one popular lore that is there. And for whatever reason, this has become very popular. A, because of the way the words are constructed. So if you look at the words, they're so very tongue twisting, but it's also joyful. When you also chant it, it feels joyful if you're able to get to it, right? Although it is a tongue twister, but it feels nice to chant it. It's like similar to Ravana, the Ravana Stotram, Rudra Tandavam that Ravana composed on Shiva. That is also tongue twisting. It's nice to chant. So this one is also tongue twisting, nice to chant. But at the same time, when you chant this with a certain fervor, or just with the plain chant, the way it goes, there is a natural upsurge of energy that happens. Because the way the chant itself is constructed that way to give you a certain upsurge of energy, it's very difficult to do. The Aigiri Nandini Mahishasura Mardini Stotram chant. It's very difficult to chant it and feel sleepy. It's very difficult for that to happen. You chant it, you will feel a little. It's like Hanuman Chalisa, for example, right? So, but of course, as I was telling Kalpaka, I was requesting that she records a gentler version because all the versions on the internet are very, very exciting. So, it not just activates you, it agitates you also. So there's a little difference between activating and agitating, right? So you'll have to manage a little bit of that difference. So I I find we have to get to a place of being feeling activated and energetic, and the the chant can do that to us. So this is kind of the background of the Mahishasura Mardini Stotram, and there is a reference says that in the Devi Mahatmyam itself there is a reference saying those who chant the Mahishasura Mardini Stotram regularly, I will never leave them. Devi makes a promise. I shall never leave them. I shall always be there with them. Right? So this slide, this page that I was showing you is an introduction to what I just explained from a Devi Mahatmyam standpoint. Now, Devi Mahatmyam, Mama's saying in Jammu Vaishno Devi temple, the stotram is chanted daily morning before Arati. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's very nice. So if you look at this page, look at it from the bottom. This is how the Devi Mahatmyam kind of progresses through the various asuras in a way. And then there is a certain symbolism. So as I explained to you earlier, you can get deeper into each one of this, but this is at a high level to indicate there is a symbolism attached to every asura that arises during the various stages of the Devi Mahatmyam journey. So you have Madhukaitabha, then you have Mahishasura, then Dhumra Lochana, then Chandamunda, Raktabija, Shumbha Nishumba, and Surat Samadhi. Okay. Now, these are what we've tried to do is we've tried to liken them to either an emotion or an expression that happens within us, and how at every stage, and I've mapped it to the associated chakra also within us, because each chakra has a function, has a certain characteristic, and that is associated with this particular asura within us. And so when you're rising above each of the chakra, in the chakra sadhana, you rise above each chakra. What it means by rising above is you are now, as you go one chakra to the next one, you are releasing yourself from the constraints of that chakra, because each chakra has a role and a function to play within a certain realm. So you're releasing yourself from the condition of the chakra and move to the next one, releasing from the condition of the second one, moving to the third one, and so forth. So you map this to an asura. This is the asura that's operating within us. So as you're rising above the chakra, you're also right. It's like Devi vanquishing that particular asura within us, so that we rise above to the next level of um, evolution or refinement within us, within ourselves. Okay. So Mahishasura, you see here is lust and rage. Okay. But although this is the work is called Mahishasura Mardini, you will see all of these asuras appearing in this shloka. She's named as Mahishasura Mardini, but she is also Ambika, she is also Kalika, she is also Chandika, she is also um, um, Varahi, she is also Mantrini, she is all of that in that stotram. Although she is referred to as Mahishasura Mardini, or the one who has killed Mahisha. Okay. Now, just a few minutes on Mahisha himself. Mahisha is Mahisha. It means buffalo in Sanskrit. And he's an asura who has the body or the head of a buffalo or the form of a buffalo. Now, what does buffalo mean to us? Or a bull or a raging bull? I don't know how many of so if anyone has traveled to New York's Wall Street, the Wall Street in New York, Manhattan, right outside Merrill Lynch, there's a bank called Merrill Lynch. There's a huge bull that stands there. And when I saw that bull for the first time, I was like, wow, Mahisha would have been something like this. It's fabulous. I know, Kailash, you remember the Merrill?
It's opposite the exchange, that like
Right opposite the exchange.
Selfie
New
spot.
York exchange.
New York Stock Exchange.
ಎಲ್ಲಾರ್ಗೂ ಸೆಲ್ಫಿ ಸ್ಪಾಟ್ ಅದು.
Oh,
Yeah.
selfie spot.
Time Square.
A little away from
very
Times
very
Square,
big
yeah.
bull.
Very large bull. So
Times
just
Square.
Times Square, Lama. This is not in Times Square. That's Avenue
Almost
7.
to the south.
This is towards the Wall Street. Wall Street.
Ah.
So just imagine, and when I saw that, you look at that the 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 rage of the animal. The rage of the animal, the kind, the muscular nature of the animal, and also um, the body parts are also like real solid. You can't have an animal more than that. It's like that kind of an animal, right? It's like fully an animal in all forms. No, it's great as a raging bull because it brings the vigor and the vitality. When I say vitality, if you actually see such bulls, such large busts of such bulls, you'll also see the gender organ will be pretty large, right? That organ will also be pretty large to show that it's so much of vitality and so much of vigor that this creature carries, and that is an animal tendency, right? And what it represents is the animal tendency in us. So Mahishasura was in that way a very vigorous, a vibrant animal. Now, whether it's good or bad is not the question here. The only question is, are you gross or are you refined? Because bulls are not bad creatures. If you put them to the right use, they're great. If you go to the African safari and all, you'll see bulls are just roaming about. They don't just go jump and pounce on other animals and keep killing them, right? They don't keep doing that. Only when there's, maybe they hunt. They probably don't even hunt, right? They graze. But the amount of power and energy they carry, they have bulls with horns. Even lions wouldn't come close, right? Lions or tigers also won't come close. They'll have to use some kind of cheat method to come and pounce on it. From the back, it will come as a small group and then try to do that. Otherwise, it's very difficult to confront, because the horns are so strong and the thing is like metal, right? Bull is like a metal. So that is an animal tendency, and which is very rooted within us. And it's an earth element. It's an earth and a water. Although Mahishasura here appears as a water element in the depiction I showed, what we are saying is it is still in the material plane. It's very rooted, very material. Because the moment you go to fire, see, earth and water are still very material in nature. The moment you go to fire, there is a little transition between the physical and the non-physical. Because fire is both rupa and arupa. Or rather, there is form, but there is no, you can't define the form, but there is some form, right? So fire is like a transition. Agni Mede Purohitam. It is like Agni is a priest which transmits or transitions between the physical and the non-physical. And then comes your Vayu and then Akasha, which is far more refined. But Agni is a transition between the physical and the non-physical. Now, water and earth are very physical in nature. So, Mahishasura is that physical nature within us. And how does Mother help us overcome the physical conditionings, the physical bondings, and the how we are tied down to our physical needs all the time? Physical needs of the body. And remember, it is not, when we say physical needs of the body, it also rises in the mind. It's not just the body. It's not just the bodily needs. If you're only the bodily needs, then we would have been very simple, right? It would have been much more simpler to manage, because no animals get, animals easily don't get constipated, or they don't have gas problems and things like that, right? Because they don't go and eat random stuff, but we do. Because a lot of our body is in our mind. Body may not need it, but the mind wants the body to taste it, they eat it, enjoy it. All of that is, so the body is in our mind also. So what the tendencies, what we talk about, the physical tendencies that we carry, the material or earthy tendencies that we carry, are the conditions of the mind. And what Devi comes here, and she vanquishes that conditioning and helps us refine further. Okay? So that way, Mahishasura Mardini. Why is Mahishasura Mardini very important? Although in some works you will say Mahisha is the last one to get killed. Two ways of looking at Mahisha. One is he is the stubborn ego that gets killed at the last. Because whatever you do, or even if you do sadhana, you may come to a point of spiritual ego. Right? We come to a point of spiritual ego. I have done so much sadhana. Oh, I know Sri Vidya. Of course, I know Sri Vidya Subramaniam. But you say, I know Sri Vidya Upasana. I know Shiva Upasana. I know yoga. I know Tantra. I know mantra. So we say, I know all of this. That also brings about a certain spiritual ego. Now, that can also be represented as Mahisha. That this ego is so stubborn. It's very subtle, but very stubborn, very hard to wash off. Right? It's like that stain that comes onto a white cloth and you wash, the stain may go away, but the remnants of the stain will remain on the cloth somewhere. You'll still feel it. The cloth is not the same white as it was before the stain. So like that, it will be very stubborn. So that is also another way of representing, to say that Mahisha is that stubborn ego that is there within us, which is very refined, very, very fine ego, which is very difficult to take off. That is one way of looking at it, right? Which is Mahishasura Mardini, or Mahishasura Mardini as Devi killing Mahisha is the last act. Or it can also be seen as this, where it is the first act, or the first or the second act, where she has to kill Mahisha for us to become more refined. You quell or win over the animal tendencies within us. Only then you will feel like doing some sadhana. right? Oh, namakku or Nama Sankirtanamla, if you're wanting to sit for 2 hours, you will have to win over the desire to go out and do something else with some friends or whatever, or do something else elsewhere. So that desire to come sit and meditate, for example, if I have to sit and today I've taken I do a sankalpa that I am going to meditate for an hour. That sankalpa to be achieved, Devi needs to help me to quell the Mahisha within me, that animal tendency within me that is wanting to be alert, roam about, do this, do that, be always outward focused. Because animals are always outward focused. Animals are always seeking what? They are seeking the survival. They are trying to make sure that they survive. So their survival instincts are always high. So they're always alert. For what? For survival needs. So if you kind of rise above that, if we don't think too much about our survival needs and we kind of know, okay, it's kind of taken care, that is when I can sit and do sadhana. Only then I can do some meditation, dhyana, japa, nama sankirtanam, whatever. So this is another way of looking at Mahishasura Mardini. So I prefer to see it this way, where Mahisha is represented as this element or entity within us, which is the animal tendency. You kind of you don't suppress, you win over it, because the more you suppress, the more these things will bounce back. We don't suppress, we don't want to suppress, we want to dissolve the tendency slowly, right? The need, now today if you see, the need to be active in the world, the need to be competitive in the world, the need to be at par with everything else in the world, the need to be on top of your Instagram, the need to be on top of your LinkedIn, your social media, the need to be in a meeting, the need for you to speak, otherwise nobody will notice you. Now, all of these needs are rising from some form of survival need. When this, so all of this has to calm down for us to be able to do sadhana. If I have to sit down and think of Mother, Devi, or Krishna, or Shiva, I have to calm my mind down, all of this has to settle down. So we take Mahishasura Mardini as the mother who is helping us do that, right? So that is kind of an introduction to uh, the generally any form of Devi worship. This is how we need to look at it, of how she slowly brings us. We've done this through Navaratris also, and then Ashadha Navaratri is coming, Navarahi Navaratri starting next week. So with this, the process of this kind of thinking, we should try to see how we use this energy, because Devi is nothing but Shakti, which is nothing but energy. Shakti equals energy. In English, if you want to translate Shakti, it will be equal to energy. These are energies that are available at our disposal. How we use this to uplift ourselves. Uplift means move from gross to refined to subtle to subtle. This is the process. Why? Why is this required? Why do we have to become refined and subtle? So that the mind becomes sensitive. So that the mind is able to absorb the subtler energies in creation. That is all. So that you become a little more sensitive, so that you become a little more understanding, so that you're able to see beyond the Panchamahabhutas. Right? So that your intuition sharpens. Not to achieve something in the world, but just to become a much more refined individual. And the more refined we become, the more then the mind can stay more in the realm of devotion. Right? The mind to be, if your body and mind is agitated, it's very difficult to be in devotion. For us to be in devotion, our mind needs to come to a state of a certain refinement and a certain sensitivity. And this refinement is also called as what? It is called as Chitta Shuddhi. In Vedanta Marga, it is called as Chitta Shuddhi. And they say Karma Yoga, you use Karma Yoga to attain to Chitta Shuddhi. Which means you do what you do, but to get to Chitta Shuddhi. All that we have to do is to get to Chitta Shuddhi. Now, when does that grace dawn upon us? When does that understanding come? We cannot do that. We cannot unlock that. All we can do is keep cleansing our chitta, our minds. We cleanse, and then as we keep cleaning, it's basically the example that is always given is like cleaning a mirror. The more you clean parts of the mirror, the more you start seeing the reflection of the divine. So the more your water gets cleaned, the more reflection of the Surya that you can see or the Chandra that you see. So if you assume your heart and your mind is like a lake, but it's turbid, it's dirty, there is very little of the reflection that can be seen. The more the water becomes plain and clean and no kasad, no dirt, no residue in it, the more the reflection is seen. What do you have to do for the reflection to be seen? Nothing. The nature of water is to reflect. In the same way, nature of our jiva is to reflect the Paramatma. All we are doing is Chitta Shuddhi. We keep cleansing slowly through this process, and we get to this. And which is why you will notice the more we do these sadhanas, the more people will start noticing slowly some ஒரு களை வருது, ஒரு பார்க்கறதுக்கு ஒரு தேஜஸ் இருக்கு, இப்படிலாம் சொல்றாள்ல. This is all, where does it come from? Slowly that is reflecting on the outside. That reflection on the outside is a natural occurrence of your action of cleaning. All you're doing is only cleansing. You are not trying to reflect. You are only cleansing. The reflection is happening on its own. So this is the whole process of Mahishasura Mardini. So there are about 21 verses. We will, I think we are getting close to the hour. We will start looking at the meaning of every verse from next session onwards. And if you notice, I've sent the PDF. If you see any errors, etc., please do indicate to me. I'll fix it. I'll correct it. I have not put the meanings there. I've just put the Sanskrit verse and the transliterated English verse, and indicated like a title for each shloka. Just to, in English, we try to make a reference of what is that shloka about, right? So then we can go through each one, and we can try to see, we'll cover as many as we can. And the nice thing is we can also use this Navaratri of Varahi Navaratri to chant it, right? Every day, let's just use, I mean, you can use any version on the internet to play around and chant along with it, right? Because you just look at the chant. It's pretty, actually the chants are pretty simple. It's not complicated. It's just that some words are so very closely sounding words. It may sound a little confusing or twisting, but it's okay. With a little bit of attention, we can pick it up, right? And again, I'm recording this. I'm requesting Kalpaka to Kalpaka, you now this request has been recorded and it's going to be uploaded on YouTube now. Okay. So no pressure, Kalpaka.
Highlight.
All right, so we'll do that and we'll see how Mother takes us forward from here. Okay. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanaayeti Samarpayami Sadashivayeti Samarpayami Jagadambikaye iti Samarpayami Sadgurunathayeti Samarpayami. Hari Om Tat Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Gurudeva. Hari Om. Hari Om. Thank you.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
ಹರಿ